The courtroom showdown ended before it had even begun for Prince Harry after he settled his High Court legal action against the publisher of The Sun News Group newspapers at the 11th hour. The 10-week trial was due to start last Tuesday, but was delayed twice before barristers from both sides requested an adjournment until Wednesday morning when the news came of a settlement. Now, the Duke of Sussex received a full apology and substantial damages from the publisher of The Sun for, quote, serious intrusion into his private life and that of his late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. Now, Lizzie, what did this win mean beyond what we understand to be a substantial financial settlement in terms of the admissions of unlawful practices in order for his barrister to claim this was, quote, a monumental victory?
Yeah, for Prince Harry, I mean, he has said all along he was prepared to fight this, he was prepared to take them to trial, he was prepared to go through a 10-week trial, and he got them in the courtroom. And, you know, back in as early as December, just last month, he said for him, this is not about the money. This is about accountability and getting accountability from newspapers. He feels like he is representing not just himself, but the 1,300 other people that have had to settle because it's not financially viable for them to continue. So I think when David Sherborne stood up and said we need an adjournment and we understood that there were intense negotiations going on, we knew that this was not just going to be an agreement about money. He was going to want some sort of accountability from News Group newspapers, and what he got was the full and unequivocal apology, and he also got an admission of unlawful practices. For the first time, unlawful practices were admitted at The Sun. Now, they haven't admitted hacking, they admitted unlawful practices using private investigators, not their journalists. But
the private investigators were hired by their journalists?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
OK. So would that qualify in terms of Harry's crusade as the victory that he was looking for?
Yeah, I think for Prince Harry, it required more than just the money. We understand the damages to be somewhere between 10 to 20 million, and I don't think that alone would have settled it for him. He needed the News Group newspapers to go further, and they did, and that's what we've seen with that statement.
Also, really interesting that he won an apology for his late mother.
And I think that would have been hugely significant in clinching this deal and this settlement, because we know he's long wanted justice for his mother, and he has got that apology for serious intrusion into her life, which of course shaped and clouded his life and his childhood too, having witnessed what she went through and then having experienced it himself, and then the way he feels that Meghan has been treated and talking about history repeating itself. To get that apology on behalf of his mother, hugely significant for him. Not about the money, as Lizzie's saying, and he's always maintained that. But we have to say that money is at the heart of this, because there's only so far you can go. And the way these civil cases work, if you're offered a settlement, you reject it, and then the damages awarded by the judge at the end of this are lower, you're then liable for the costs.
And not just your costs, by the way.
The costs on both sides.
Yeah, and sometimes those can be...
well, let's look at what's happening with the Associated newspapers, the case against the Mail at the moment, wrapped across the knuckles for totally out-of-control costs at £38 million already. It's not due to come to court until January of next year.
2026. Yeah.
2026. So huge sums of money, and that's why Harry has maintained he was one of the only people who could fight it this far with deep enough pockets to do so. The likes of Hugh Grant, Sienna Miller have all stood on the steps of the court and said, we can't go any further with this, and why we've seen so many settlements, £1 billion paid out to these 1,300 claimants.
And it has been suggested that his damages, which we don't know the full extent of, but are expected to be in the region of 10 times the greatest payout thus far. So that gives you some idea about the levels of intrusion that he has sustained across the course of the years that he's claiming.
And also, I suppose, how much News Group newspapers wanted this to be dealt with and not going through that 10-week court case, which we were anticipating was just going to get underway. Harry was due to be giving evidence himself in mid-February, and you know, a very sizable, significant settlement, but this, of course, an extremely high-profile claimant. We didn't expect him to settle because of everything he'd said before, and I think it is a victory, but it's not the end of the story. It's one chapter, because he's always maintained that he wants accountability. And the Sun's apology, the apology from News Group newspapers, rather, saying that this was rogue investigators, private investigators hired in good faith. What Harry hasn't got is the accountability from the top. And he has always maintained, and his lawyer repeated it in his statement after that settlement was announced, he's always maintained that there was knowledge of this right at the top of the organisation and that there was a cover-up. He didn't get to see that played out and heard in court.
However, Lord Watson, who was the last man standing alongside Harry, has said that he would encourage and has certainly made sure that all of these findings are passed to the Met in the hope of a criminal investigation.
And indeed, the Met has asked for transcripts.
Yeah, and they've been passed to them. So, as you say, this may just be the end of one chapter as we turn to the beginning of another. Family members, let's turn to the Spencers and Charles, Harry's uncle, who says it takes an enormous amount of guts to take on major media organisations like this and incredible tenacity to win against them. It's wonderful that Harry also secured an apology for his mother. She would be immensely touched by this, I'm sure, and also rightly proud. Well done indeed. Will that mean a lot to Harry?
I think that will mean a huge amount to Harry. Earl Spencer picking up on that point that, you know, a lot of this was about his mother as well. But it also tells us a lot about the Spencer family picking up and trying to support Harry. They've also been trying very hard to support William and kind of make sure that both of these boys have that Spencer influence and support behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, very much reflecting on and how important it was to have Princess Diana's the impact this had on Princess Diana recognised in this settlement.
Harry does remain very close to the Spencers. Yeah. He stayed with Charles Spencer when he was over for Lord Robert Fellowes's funeral. Charles Spencer attended the anniversary ceremony for the Invictus Games at St Paul's. He had that support from that side of the family when he didn't even see his father and his brother when he was over in London for 3 days.
And what do we know about support on this from within the royal family, Russell?
Well, not much. I mean, it's not going to repair any rifts between Harry. I think, you know, we could have had the situation where Harry was over here. There would have been a lot of speculation whether he would have seen the King and his brothers we'd had on his previous visits. But yeah, there's still the animosity from Harry of his brother settling of a substantial amount from News Group.
Which we only know about because of
this trial. Yeah.
Because it was submitted in Harry's court papers.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and again, I don't think well, it certainly isn't over because he's got an upcoming trial against Associated Newspapers.
Who are the publishers of the Mail.
Of the Mail and the Mail Online. So his sort of crusade isn't finished. It's a good result for Harry. I think that regardless of him calling himself the Dragon Slayer, he has got the apology for his mother. He's got the accountability on some part from News Group. And I think if he draws a line under this, it will be a good deal for him and a good deal for News Group because they haven't had to go to trial. Their journalists haven't been named in the court trial. So probably a good result all round.